Are you a doctor trying to elevate your practice and make your impact on the world long lasting? Ready to go from a hustler to a CEO? Man, you already know. Welcome to the Michael Buffington Show, the podcast that's transforming the lives of doctors. You ready? Let's go.
Hey, I'm Michael Buffington, and welcome back to the show. Today I want to jump into a topic that I have lived on all sides in many ways, but I want to give a little bit of a shout out to our co-founder in Cures Functional Health. I'm sporting the shirt today, and this is about the problem of decisions that are made in a vacuum. Now, this is something that he says all the time. So if you happen to see this show, I hope you can smile, because he says it almost every single meeting that we're in. And so I've heard it so much, I thought, you know what, it is extremely relevant. And I had a situation come up today when I'm actually shooting this show that had happened to me. And this came to mind, and I think, man, this is going to give some value to a lot of people, because it's such a common thing. And if you've never heard even of that expression, that awareness will help you out, and you got to trust me on this. So, because making a decision in a vacuum is all about doing it from a limited perspective, and/or with limited information. That information, right, can be data, can be specific measurables, which we drive home in Game Changer all the time, to have your targets and everything that you do being specific and measurable. Well, when you are growing a business of any sort, whether you're a small shop, in a smaller practice wanting to be a bigger practice, your bigger practice wanting to be an amazing practice, serving more people and really, quite frankly, taking home more money. Or if you're really looking to get into the business world where you're, Fortune 500, you're Fortune 5000, you're all of those things, this is relevant regardless of the size, because it has to do with communication, has to do with people, and you can never take those two things out of the equation. But what happened to me this morning, so it actually started yesterday, and I made a decision. It was a simple decision. It was about calling my wireless provider, which happens to be AT&T, and no, I'm not getting any endorsement or pay for AT&T, and depending on how this show goes, you'll see the relevance in that. But I've been with them for years, and I just noticed that my cell phone bill, which I have numerous people on, those of you with teenagers and beyond understand, I've got a lot of people, including my mom and others, on that plan. Well, and it's all great, and it's fine. So I'm on a business plan, and in that, I noticed that the bill's creeping up. But when I say creeping up, it got more substantial. And yes, I'm the guy, and those of you that know me for knowing my numbers, I'm the guy that I don't keep too many streaming services. I cut out small things. Some people laugh at me. Some people think it's smart. But I can tell you from doing a profit analysis on a lot of practices, they leak a lot of money with things just like this that they don't check. So there's your tactical thing early on. If you haven't checked on your cell service lately, or you haven't checked even on your office phone and internet, like those things are somewhat of a commodity in today's world. And if you haven't reached out and seen if you can get a better rate or get a promo or some kind of thing, like you're missing out. You should do that at least probably every 6 months. I tend to do it every quarter. And if it's on par, well, there's no call to make or no email to send. So let me get back to the story, because the story is this. I reached out. Simple. I wanted to do it via chat because I didn't really have the time to get involved in another phone call. I'm like, all right, I can handle emails and do some other things and simultaneously do this chat with them. Has anyone ever done that? And the reason I wouldn't have somebody else do this is because many times I can get somebody else on the account. They may ask questions or get into situations, or somehow that person in my office amazingly all of a sudden didn't have permission to represent me or the office. So I'm just doing this. And that's, again, another conversation. But I'm just doing this. I start the chat. Person's super helpful, wants to help, going through all this stuff. Well, the next thing you know, just like always, we're off of the cell phone bill and off of what can be done there to, oh, do you have internet? Well, just so happens, yes, we have business internet and phone that is with them. It's through a VoIP system, blah, blah, blah. It's also AT&T, as well as I have personal internet with AT&T. Hey, it's kind of like Apple or Android. Once you're there, you're there. And as long as they do a decent job, I have no desire to go through setups and installs and all the things. So we go down this path. And of course, I can save you money here. I can do this, but I'm very careful. I've done this. It's not my first rodeo, and I'm sure it wouldn't be yours, right? You know how those things can go, and next thing you know, you're down the rabbit hole. Well, this is going on longer than I want it to, and I'm ready to get off the chat. What this person communicated and me asking some knowledgeable questions, right? From not being my first rodeo, and asking the specifics, like there isn't going to be another install, there isn't going to be this, and all those, I'm getting all these assurances. Well, fast forward from that wrapping up and getting an email about the order, etc., that was, and what the transitions that were going to take place. Thought everything was handled. My phone is ringing. I went through a couple calls yesterday. Then this morning, early, it's starting again. And luckily, I pick up, and a tech is on the other end. He's like, hey, just checking to make sure so that somebody's going to be at this address, our office address, to handle this install today. And I was like, hold up. Thank you, Wendell. Let me understand exactly what you're there for. He proceeds to tell me, the short version. I'm like, no. So, again, I'm going to make this short because this could take up an entire show. And what went on through this process, so I talked to the sales rep, I talked to the tech. I tell the tech I'm not doing that. I tell the sales rep, that's not exactly the way you communicated it. No, I'm not interested. Then I get a supervisor that calls me. So next thing you know, I have them calling me. Now, I finished my morning kind of routine, everything to get me in a good, powerful spot. I'm in the process of taking in breakfast. I got a kid leaving for school, yet I'm on the phone dealing with all these things. And then they throw in hey, we just need somebody to be at the location. I'm like, hold up, this is our phone system. What about the phone system once you do this? Well, I happen to own the building, so yeah, we're going to need to pull a fiber from the back of the building. I know that that's not going to work as well from our suite because I, was involved in building this building. Like so many things transpired. And this took about 45 minutes of hit or miss, back and forth, hit or miss, back and forth. And who is making decisions in a vacuum? Now, here's what was going on. The salesperson, when it was doing their job, quite frankly, they were doing their job, but with only the perspective of sales. They were doing anything and everything for me to become a user of the additional services, which ironically I already was. So there was nothing else to sell me. So this is the direction they took it as kind of an add-on and this and that. Like I needed 2 lines of fiber at my building. Like, no, I mean, one is plenty. We got good speed. We got plenty of speed. But that happened on the sales side. Then here's the tech who thankfully called me. Cool guy, really just super helpful. It's like, hey, I'm here and I'm ready to do this, but I'm kind of, questioning the whole thing. But I also understand some of what goes on in the back, but I don't have access to some of the back systems, so I want to be sure. Well, in the middle of this, right, I hadn't even said anything to any of my team that was going to be at the office, that was going to be there seeing patients, that was going to be taking care of people. They had zero idea, right, there was going to be a tech show up, that there was a potential install. Why would we do it? What changes would it create? And then that litany of things that would lead over to something corporate, maybe something to do with our IT and our security, and on and on and on and on, right? Well, then I get the supervisor, who the supervisor really is probably in a situation to manage the sales team, increase sales, and that's all a reflection on their responsibility. But in this case, as big and as successful as a company, as much money as AT&T makes, they didn't have it all together, right? Everybody has their lane, which can be a great thing. Everybody knows their roles and responsibilities, but they're making decisions in a vacuum. In their vacuum, they're just seeing it, as I said, from a limited perspective, with really inaccurate or very limited information. Now, that's AT&T, but it can happen to us. And I think about it in terms, and I've done it in years past. I don't do it now. Are we making decisions that are positive and leave an impact that we want for our patients? Like that's always the first lens and always the first perspective that you should get. You can give that from where you sit, how it would impact them. Maybe you actually get their input and their perspective on how it's been. Some of that you'll know. Are you getting referrals? Do people stay? The old saying, do they stay, pay, and refer? Because if they do stay, pay, and refer, that's a pretty good indicator that you're doing a good job in that area. If it isn't, then it's also a pretty good indicator. And you could dig a little deeper into that. But how about the team? Are you making decisions as a leader that negatively impact the team? Are they positively impacting the team? Are you asking the team? Are you asking the right people on the team? Because it may not involve everyone, but it involves the people that have a direct correlation or direct tie to that activity. So how about you? Are you just kind of trying to do your thing? And I've seen this happen with good intention. Like, hey, I'm going to be the leader. I'm going to make the tough decisions. I'm going to drive accountability here. Yet, in doing so and being that, you turn into something that you're not, which is a little bit more of a dictator, a little bit more of a tyrant, a little bit more of a, power over somebody to where you're telling everyone how it's going to be without any input or any feedback from them as to what the impact can be. Because if you've never actually been in that role, if you've not ever served in that capacity, how could you know? So you need these things in place. I always heard this. I don't know if it's true or not, but I always heard that Blockbuster back in the day, maybe they should have done something. Maybe they should have sold to Netflix when they could have. But Blockbuster would have their execs come in and work in a store for a week. I thought it was like a week a year. Can you imagine? But how powerful would that be when they're seeing the customer, seeing the processes, seeing that side of the business versus only sitting in kind of the glass house and making all these decisions that impact everybody down? It's the same true, for us here, in Curious. It's like, how does it impact the partners? How does it impact the partners? How does it impact the patients? How does it impact the team at headquarters? And it's extremely easy to get lost in value. Well, guess what? No pun intended. Making decisions in a vacuum suck. Like, it's as bad as a vacuum, just sucking the dirt off the floor or the life out of the room, out of the party, okay, is if people are doing this and you are doing this potentially over and over, it's going to make it suck. Even if it doesn't make it suck for you, it's going to make it suck so bad for everybody around you that eventually it will suck for you too. So there's the harsh reality, and it's the problem when decisions are made in the vacuum. So you're going to lose time. You're going to lose patience. In this case, right? I could have actually lost a phone number. That the tech told me that he had a Mexican restaurant recently that had made a similar shift, and he was kind of caught in the middle, and they lost service for 2 weeks. Another restaurant that he told me a story of, luckily, it's like all of a sudden we're best buddies on the phone. He's like, yeah, they couldn't maintain their number. So when they made this conversion to save a few bucks, they lost their number that was on all their print, on their storefront, all over everything, their web, their Facebook, and so it really can be damaging on the business, but it seemed like a good idea. So as much as I want to save a buck on streaming services and help people stop the financial leaks in their practice so they really take that money home, there's times when you have to get perspective from others. Those could be others that you know. It's one of the reasons that people may hire me or another consultant or another coach, because they need somebody to look at what they look at so much they can't see, if that makes sense. And I think it does make sense, because you just can't see every angle, and you can only see the angles that you've seen before. You can't all of a sudden magically see it different. And that's where business expertise and experience really comes into play. So don't do that, because I mentioned losing time, losing money, losing a phone number is a practical one. But most importantly for you as a leader, you're going to lose sleep. You're going to lose sleep because things are not going as easily as they can and be as streamlined as they can and have data-driven processes that can be backed up and supported. So I want to encourage you, and I want to always ask the question, where in your life, it could be anywhere in your life. I mean, this happens to me in all areas, so you can't just compartmentalize it. But it's all the business owners and practice owners on here that listen, where in your business are you doing this? Where are you making decisions in a vacuum? Because if nothing else, if you would just pause for a minute, or you would get off this show here in a moment, and you would allow yourself a couple of minutes, I'm sure if it hasn't already hit you while we're talking here today, you'll know an area that you're doing this, okay? And don't see it as a problem. See this as an opportunity. This is just an opportunity that if you solve this one thing, how much is it worth? How much is it worth? How much is it worth in financial terms? But how much is it worth in human life value? That was really hard to see on the P&L or on the balance sheet. And it could actually be worth more than any of the other numbers. So do yourself a favor, do that today. And, I always say, and I mean it sincerely, these are the things that I want you to learn. Like, learn these things daily. Learn, be willing to learn. Always want to apply it and implement it, because to live fully and then to lead boldly, these are the kind of things that will help get you there. And never, ever forget, your legacy is you. It is you. The end. I'll see you next time.